wait down for Connie?
I'll do that, cause you can help on doing people set up, I'll go down there.
Sure.
And I can, yep, and when I see
Okay.
you'll send to, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I was not sitting there waiting, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know, as far as I know about it on everything else, so I don't know. I'll find out tomorrow what happened.
Yeah, I'll wait until, what do you think, till?
Connie usually 5:03, 5:05, so I mean,
Okay.
hopefully he's not
Yeah.
late, so you can.
Yep.
Yeah, you know,
go out right away.
I thought, okay, I'm gonna be smart, I'm taking the interstate, the East Street, I'm gonna mess around with downtown, sure enough, get a train. Then I get here, okay, so the 5 minutes, damn, the elevator won't work. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, if it's not one thing, it's
It's a
another.
conspiracy.
Feels like it sometimes.
So, that's the story.
Shinmore, do you need an agenda?
Yes, please. I actually printed it out, but I noticed it was like 41 after. I'm like, I need to get going. I didn't know that they had construction over here now.
Oh, God, yeah, I can barely get into the north lot.
Why can't they just fix 8th Street? Like Moorhead and this, the road is terrible.
It's awful,
Yeah, and it's just like they fix every road except.
except that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it would, yeah.
Yeah, I've said the same thing in that one of the city guys told me that 8th Street is under the state's
Yeah.
supervision since it's a
Oh.
highway. And he said that they have plans to do it every so often. It's still like a couple years down the road for them. So they just keep patching the holes little by little until.
Well, it seems like they stopped doing that by Concordia. By where
It's awful.
Red Door, is that, are those the townhouses, townhomes?
Yeah.
Red Door?
It looked like a machine shed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
those
true.
are gonna be-
Chainsaws, we're dealing with chainsaws. I'm sorry, I'm Shinmore.
Hi, I'm Heather.
Nice to meet you.
too.
Or Nate.
Hi, Nate.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just got copies for everybody in case people want to know.
I feel like I haven't been here forever.
Well, Willard's probably been missing longer. He
Fell off his
still
truck.
recovering, yeah.
My God,
Okay.
our sons kept on sharing with RSV.
Oh, nice.
Oh my
Isn't
God.
that?
And then my wife got sick too, and then it's just like, thankfully my job is flexible where I can work from home, and I haven't had to travel. But it seems like starting in July is when traveling starts, and I've been pushing it to the end of the month. So so when the customer says, "Are you available?" I'm like, "No."
What do you do?
I'm a software services consultant.
Okay.
So I travel around the country and training clients, new and current clients, and setting up their software.
Nice.
And so, yeah, nice is.
It's nice to have the flexibility and it's like an industry that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
No, but.
The travel's gotta get old.
It does, oh my gosh. My manager literally lives in the hotel, like she'll take her stuff out, hang it, put it in the drawers where I'll just hang my stuff and live in a suitcase. I think I've got a travel scheduled for late July, early September, late September, October, already, I mean, that far.
That's too much.
Yeah, my wife doesn't even know what that or the 2 in September. At least I didn't have to go to Milwaukee for 2 weeks straight.
There you go. I hope they're gonna be here soon.
Are we waiting on Mikkel?
No, Mikkel, Willard are gonna be here. Nate's gonna be facilitating the meeting.
Okay.
The elevators are locked.
Are they?
We just got them, they're unlocked now.
Oh,
Do you
perfect.
know, do they know what to explain or?
No, he just, one of the building guys went up to the office, Chris, and that's one of
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So they can go down Banana.
Right, yeah, we can leave the building, but you can.
Okay.
They must not have had this scheduled in or something.
Yeah, it was on the TVs and it
I
was
saw
on the
that, yeah.
calendars, so
They have to do it farther down, I guess, to make sure it goes through.
yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna have to find out if, where it went wrong so.
Okay, I will wait, we won't, the audio's off, like we are broadcasting, but
Okay.
we don't have the audio up yet, so.
Okay, I would say we give it a minute or two, and if Connie's not here by then, we can just get going and
Yeah.
we'll hold off on business until he
So we
shows
need
up.
5 now?
Pardon?
We need 5 now?
Yes, oh no, 4. 4 out of 7.
Oh, good, so we have a
Yeah, we're
quorum.
good to go.
We
Sorry.
just don't have
Yes.
our speaker, but,
I'll slowly start turning the
Okay.
off and then,
The math is,
right?
Yeah, it's not your thing.
it is my thing usually.
Oh, it is?
Yes, good call, thank you. And just so you know, Heather, you can hit this to put the green button on the top.
Is this your first name? Oh. Sorry, I thought you.
It's okay calling me for a little introduction about yourself.
Sure.
No, when we start.
hi, Yoxim. Yeah.
You need to come on the seat?
I apologize, I blamed the traffic.
Oh, no.
It's easy to blame it on that these days.
Construction,
Mhm.
it's all over the place, oh.
And locked elevator, is that too?
Instructions.
Yes, I know.
Well, if you wanna get going, Nate, we'll.
All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm Nate Allgard, and I live in the 4th Ward. Josh, you want to call roll?
Yes, Nate Allgard,
Present.
Connie Otten, Deb White,
Here?
Shinwar Mai,
Present.
Mikhail Pauline Normandin, Willard Yellowbird, Heather Keeler.
Present.
Heather, could you just give us a real brief intro to yourself? That'd be great.
Well, my name's Heather Keeler. I've lived in Moorhead for going on 6 years. I currently work as the Native American liaison for the Moorhead School District, and I'm going to school at MSUM for my master's in educational leadership. I am extremely passionate about education equity and just equity in general. So I serve on this commission, and I also sit on the Fargo-Moorhead Native American Commission.
All right, well, welcome, thank you. All right, the agenda, do we have any changes to the agenda? Anybody wants to suggest? If not, could I get a motion to approve, please?
Move to approve.
Moved by Deb, second.
I'll second.
And more second. Any discussion? All in favor, say, or I guess Josh, do I have to do the roll, or is it a voice vote?
Just all in favor.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. All right. Minutes of, let's see, April? We did March, right?
No, we had not.
Okay,
We didn't
Have a quorum.
last one.
so March and April minutes. Any changes?
I move to approve the March and the April minutes.
Deb, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. All right. Citizens to be heard. See no one? Okay. Well, now we're down to the best part anyway. Welcome, Yoxim. Thank you for coming to visit us today. And we'll let you just take it away.
Okay, good. You gave me about an hour right now. How interesting. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm really excited to share what Culture Diversity is. I was hired in 1994.
Micro-
That makes me 26.
Yoxim, could you turn your microphone on, please?
So there's a button right here.
Okay, got it.
Oh.
Yes.
There you go.
So the organization it's about 26 years old. It was started by the leaders, community leaders in 1994, because they were really ahead of their time. They saw the demographic changes according to the census, and you need to know, every 10 years, the census show about a doubling, almost doubling of the ethnically diverse population in the Cass and Clay County area. So right now, you're looking at 10 to 12% of the population, and we're not surprised about that. The programs really cover Cass and Clay County, and I want to very quickly go through some of the programs. Many of the ideas came from the community because they set up a steering committee with representation from the government, from many different areas, and we had about 8 action teams because we didn't know what to do with the money because it was a very large grant from Pew Foundation. It was almost $400,000, and they were very smart. They asked that 25% of the money has to match, and they have to come from the areas that are being served in the area. So you have Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead, Dilworth, Cass and Clay County, American Crystal Sugar, United Way, FM Area Foundation. They all play a role in coming up with the 25% to match it because they felt that you walk the talk, right? And in that process, we developed several programs, and some of the programs still exist. We do a lot of diversity training and cultural competency, and our agencies that we have served range a lot from the city. The city of Moorhead has done, we have done training for them. I'm going to be doing it we've done it for Trail King, Microsoft. We're going to do one tomorrow, actually, for the attorneys in North Dakota. Is sponsored by the North Dakota Supreme Court. I'm very happy about that. So one area that you can think about for, Clay County and the city of Moorhead is anything that we could do that you could refer us, that would be great. Another one that we started actually was the interpreter services. I got a grant from Dakota Medical, and I took the idea from Seattle. And they have a program where we train people who want to be interpreters. They have to go through 40 hours of training, and then if they take the test, and if they pass the test, then they're certified. As a result, we saw people who were paid $10, $12 go up to $18, $20, and if you do it for the court, you'll be paid at least $30 an hour. So we're becoming very professional in that service. There are also 2 cultural programs that is ready here, you all know, is Pangea, Cultivate Our Cultures. It started in 1994, and it's really fun because, performances and all those things. This is an opportunity for people to really interact with one another so that there is there's uncertainty, there's people don't know each other, and it's a fun way to really get people to have a dialogue and learn about each other. We also added on, this is the 3rd year now, and I'm very proud of it. It's the Native American Festival and Educational Series, and the goal is really to increase the community's awareness of the history and the value of Native Americans, because we really owe to them that we are in this area. We're all immigrants except for the Native Americans. So, and we partner with several agencies, Plains Art Museum, Daughters of the Earth, there is a nonprofit run by Native Americans, and also the Fargo Moorhead Library would be another one. So there are, and also the Native American Commission too. Another one would be Community Table. It has become like an international potluck that we kind of work with them. Again, it is really to invite the public to get to know each other. It's part of the welcoming week for immigrants throughout the whole state, throughout the whole country, really, and we're part of that. So when I talk about the interpreter services, the training, and the cultural events, I cannot forget but be very proud and mindful of the fact that we're multi-ethnic leadership. And also, we have termed it as multicultural leadership and community development. Part of that was a result of the grants that we got from Bush Foundation, and as a result of that, we started a Multicultural Alliance, and the Multicultural Alliance is a coalition of different ethnic nonprofit groups that are very small or emerging, that are based in Fargo Moorhead area. The whole idea, to be honest with you, is not to duplicate, but to support each other as a united front to do more work. So if I know, for example, an organization is very good at teaching English as a second language to new Americans, I'm not going to start it. I will refer people to the group, whether it's they're based in Moorhead or Fargo. Another one is that jobs, to be honest, job was not on the list in cultural diversity, but the recession in 2008 pushes a lot of people coming to our office, and as a result, we decided to start looking at it, and it's growing, to make sure that people get resumes, learn about job interviews, and then we refer them. to jobs and also placements. So that's the other one that we do. Coming back to the Multicultural Alliance is that we did a lot of things together so that family engagement became very important to us. Now, when you talk about family engagement, what it means is that it's not just the adults that we're caring about, but we also want the parents and the youth and the children to be part of the process. So we have after-school activities and also tutoring that we have for the young people. We work very closely with Extension. That's one of the things, because I truly believe that the Multicultural Alliance and our leadership needs to be really connecting the traditional bureaucracy, which are institutions, whether it's Extension or Village or Cass and Clay counties, to make sure that they can connect with the leaders who are representing the different ethnic groups, and then they work with them to do a better job serving the underserved, reaching and accessing the underserved. Because there are a couple of barriers. One would be the language barrier, another one would be poverty. Many of the things are really low-income issues: transportation, childcare, housing, jobs. All those are things that they need and you need to have a support group, to help them. And many of these nonprofits are really volunteers. So that's how the family engagement came into being, to make sure that some of those things are being done. Now, I do have some brochures, so if you want to do, the multi-ethnic is really growing. We call it now not so much of multi-ethnic leadership. Sorry, the interpreter service. We call it interpreting program now. We have added on something that people do not realize is language compass. The language compass is really preparing to make sure that we can communicate to the public, particularly those that do not have limited English or speak different languages, and they will emergency response if there is a disaster or anything like that. Our interpreting program has the software that will send out the message to a lot of people in different languages. So that's one thing that we really have. Do self-sufficiency. I just really roughly mentioned that, we just basically do a lot of referrals, because if they want food or clothing, and not only that too, if there are parenting issues or domestic violence issue, we refer them to specialists who are able to help them out too. Now, the Multicultural Alliance really gave us an opportunity to work with a lot of different ethnic groups, both in Fargo and Moorhead area. You need to know we continue to do leadership training, and I don't hesitate to say that Deb White has this new Institute for Leadership, and we send women for training. And also the other thing also is that they learn what is required to be a board member, and also how to run nonprofits so that they can be more effective. We need to be a voice, because many of these small groups are new and emerging, and they don't get very much funding. And so the role of cultural diversity as one of the backbones organization is to partner with them and to do. So I'm very, very happy to say that New American Development Agencies under Kamaludin have an office based in Moorhead. You really need to I would strongly suggest that you invite the New American Development Agency to come and speak to you, because they are really a fast-growing organization serving a lot of new Americans in Moorhead area, and Cultural Diversity has a sub-office with them. We do a lot of things together. Bridgepoint Community, surprisingly, is a church, but we are more concerned about reaching out to the underserved, and there's a lot of low-income families living in the northern part of Moorhead, and so we do community gardening there. We also assess their kitchen by doing a lot of the nutrition and cooking classes, so that the low income can assess some of those things too. The Fargo outreach is really more to do with soccer, recreational stuff. We didn't also mention that there's many that we haven't even added on, because this is fairly old brochure. It's really the Daughters of the Earth. We recently just got them a contract with Extension to make sure that they assess some of the nutrition and cooking classes, and also community stuff too that they do. I will stop here now and maybe ask for any questions you want to ask.
Mr. Chair? I was just asking for your permission to go first.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's good. So Yoksim, first of all, thank you. I have to say, Cultural Diversity Resources is such an important organization in our community, and the work that you have done over the years has just had such a valuable impact. And I also know that you are a longtime Moorhead resident. And
Yes.
so I'd love to hear your thoughts on places that you see where we as a commission could be partnering more with you, some of the areas that you feel our city government might be, some gaps that we might work on filling, or any suggestions you have based on your experiences.
I think you asked an excellent question. I really feel that it is amazing that we have a mayor who is Jonathan Judge, and it's just interesting to see Moorhead is really, ahead of, looking to the future. I think it's important that you connect with some of the ethnic leaders who are leading some of these organizations. And then you're going to judge them by not just by their name or what they represent, but more important, I think, is to give them an opportunity to hear what they do and see how the city can connect with them in some ways. It's very interesting. There was a woman by the name of Destiny Holiday. She tried to apply to serve on this for a long, long time, but she never got a foot in. That's what she told me. And I think we need to look at that. And also, housing is an issue in many ways. And it's fascinating because I looked at the utilities and the sewage bill in Moorhead, being in Moorhead, compared to, clients that I have that lived in Fargo, and there's a lot of grumbling about that. So I think those things are some of those. But I think more important is the school. You need to know the growth and the development of extension of any part of the school is because of the new incomes. By the way, the new incomes are not just new Americans, although there's a majority of them coming from, Minneapolis because it's more affordable to stay here. But we have a lot of immigrants coming from other states because of the job, and they're living in Fargo, Moorhead area because of the jobs. So you're going to see that diversity, and I think since we all are living in different areas, and unless you know friends who are from another background, I think it's very good I'll be more than happy to give you a list of the names of the people who are from different areas racially and economically, so that they can have a voice in terms of, some of the things that are happening to them, that they could give you some feedback about what we could do. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to follow up a little bit on the education piece.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned, I work in the schools, and one of the things that we're doing right now, and we just completed, was we put on 6 community talking circles focused on education equity.
Yes.
And we were really hoping to have a healthy turnout of all of the populations that are represented, because I 100% agree with you that our population is growing
Yes.
At an extremely fast rate within our school district. And so I'm just wondering, we're still in the process of kind of dissecting some of that data that we received, but I'm
Yes.
wondering if we couldn't partner
Sure.
in doing a little bit better job in the outreach. I thought it was interesting that you can help with the language and some of the messaging that we went out.
Yes.
We focused on the top 4 languages that we see in our home language assessment in the district, but I think that would be a really good partnership, because I will say that from a school perspective,
Yes.
we really know that it's an issue that we need to be more inclusive, and
That's
we're
right.
really on board with kind of looking at how we can do that. So I might take your information and share that
Yeah,
there.
you're welcome to do
And,
that.
And I like the idea of getting ethnic leaders in front of our youth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that serves a really positive power, in the sense that for minority youth, it's always nice to see leaders
Yes.
that look like them, but then also for all populations, it's nice to see the positive influence. So it'd be interesting to see if there's something we can do as a city level to kind of highlight that a little bit better.
I want to add on a piece about cultural diversity. I think the history of us for 26 years is an indication about not just the longevity, but we do know what we're doing. We have the experience. And I think it's important to connect with those agencies and people who have been here for a while, so that we can have some consistency and sustainability. One of the things that I find people are really, really attracted to is all the new groups and people who are coming out. And I really welcome that. but I think you cannot forget some of the so-called older veterans and organizations that are there, because without the support from the community, we would not have existed. You know, you can start something new, but it's a question of how long you can sustain it and how long you're going to do it to benefit the community so that you can make a difference. So I think that's very, very important to know.
Can you share the dates of, you mentioned 3 events, and when you were talking, and I wonder if do you have the dates that you could share with us, or is there a
I
social
think
media
for
space?
Pangea, it's always in November. Pangea is always done at the Heritage Yomkom Center in November. I think it's the second Saturday in November. I will be more than happy to email.
Yep, whatever you guys.
Yes, I'll email it to, so that it will be, passed on. The other one also is the Welcoming Week, which is a whole series of activities. And the Welcoming Week for immigrants is very interesting because cultural diversity to Cassie Wisty in my organization is taking over the coordination because it is needing the leadership that is going to be there, because there's so many activities and funding is so difficult to get all the different parts together, and Moorhead is one of them.
And Cassie was at our March meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we need to so the community table has a lot of events coming up, and it's in September. It's usually, I think, the 14th to the 24th of September. And by the way, I think a Sunday in September, I can't remember the date now, but I've already had a cultural presentation on Ukraine. Last time it was on Iran. It is by request, wanting to know, in the politics and a lot of things going on, people say, hey, we want to learn more about this country. And we partner with the Fargo Library to do 2 cultural presentations that are open to the public. So the last one was on Iran, and this coming September it will be on, it was on Iran, and this coming September it will be on Ukraine. The other one is the Native American Festival and Educational Series, and this will come up in November too, because I think, as I understand it, that was also where the Indigenous Peoples Day, but we kind of work with them on many different things too. Yeah, so.
Indigenous Peoples' Day is in
Yes,
October.
yeah.
November.
In
is
November.
Native, yeah,
I think it's in
November is Native American Heritage Month.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's my
Yes,
guess.
that's right. Yeah. And we are, partnering with Native American Commission, Daughters of the Earth, and also with the Fargo Library to do this event. Yeah, it's a whole series. I just love the storytelling. And yes, people don't realize a lot of the things that happen in Native American culture is shared in some ways through storytelling. And a lot of artwork and all those things too, which is fascinating. Even the dances that I didn't realize are reflecting some of the things that are happening in the Native American culture. So.
Any other comments, questions?
You want to go ahead? I've heard your name quite a bit. I actually came to the Fargo area back in '91, and when I saw your name on the agenda after you sent out the email, I'm like, oh, Yoksim. So you may not know me, but I know you quite well, having heard stories about you quite a bit. I think it's important for us to understand the different ethnicities that have increased in our community, not only in Moorhead but also in Fargo, because
Yes.
we share so many different resources. What would you say is the biggest ethnic group in the past maybe 2-3 years, and how can we better focus on that group to help them out in assimilating into our communities?
Your name sounds familiar to me too. I'm just wondering about your background. How did you hear about, cultural diversity or myself? I'm just curious.
Kazim is my older brother.
Oh, boy. It's a small place. Yes. Yeah, that's right. No, I was a refugee resettlement manager for Lutheran Social Services for 5 years, and the largest group was really the Kurdish at that time. And I would say that people do not realize the Bosnians were the largest refugee group that was resettled many years ago. That was the first group. We had Vietnamese, and then we have Albanians. We also have some Russian. I always like to share a joke about the Russians. I thought that it was just a nice place for them to be in. The weather was just perfect. And they looked at me and they say, oh, don't even tell me about that. This is worse than Siberia because of the wind and the cold, you know. We're very few of those. And then later on, I think the largest group right now that LSS resettle is really from Bhutan. So yes, the Bhutanese have, the numbers have overcome the Bosnians. And then the second largest group is really the Somalis. You also have a lot from Kurdish and Iraqis that are here. The recent ones are from Congo. Yeah. You also have Liberians. It's fascinating. I see more Liberians now than before. It's because by word of mouth, Liberians are coming from other states like Philadelphia, and you see a lot of them CNA, LPN, nurses in the health field that are coming from Liberia. It is interesting, if you say somebody in some career, the name of some culture has come up. How can we help them? I really want to say that if they are refugees, then obviously there are situations, each group varies. Some come with very good education, and some are not. It all depends on where they come from, and they're from different backgrounds. I strongly ask that people, whenever they say that they're a refugee from some area, is to ask more about their background, their education, their jobs and all those. Because I have worked with Bosnians who are doctors, and they are business people. And then I work with Kurdish people, the elder people who are stuck in the mountains and really have no education. But now when you look at the second, third generation, a lot of the young people are educated and very highly educated too. And many of them are in later generations, like many of us, as we come, then they do that. I think more important is to look at the larger population that are minority and low income, because I find that low income is becoming an issue right now. And it cuts across a lot of race. Look at the Native Americans we have and the Hispanics. And I can't ignore the new Americans because it's a large component. But now that the refugee resettlement program is really decreasing a lot, there are not a lot of resettlements. They used to resettle 400 to 500 a year. Now we're getting almost half of it, 200 or so. Yeah, so I think the things are changing, but we cannot ignore the low-income individuals, because low income brings a whole bunch and a cross-section of people from many different, I don't think we have to forget about the Caucasians being a large component of that too, including, people from, whether it's Native American or New Americans population. So I think depending on the situation, if it's New American, it could be language, it could be other things, or culture, because people don't know. That's where cultural diversity comes in to say, if you want to learn something about a culture, let us know. We will be able to present it to the public. I'll be more than happy to do it in the library or anywhere. You want to learn more about Iranians or Iraqis or Kurdish, we can get a panel to talk about it so that we have better understanding. But I really, truly believe, and that's how, I'm not into a lot of cultural events, but I stuck to it because I find that this is an opportunity where people are not scared of each other because you're enjoying the cultural performances and the food, and you're encouraging people to interact and have dialogue with one another without any hesitations, and that is the start of friendship and the start of communication and discussion, and that will lead on to, a better relationship and better understanding of other cultures. So if I'm standing next to you and you're eating something that I don't know, I say, oh, this is, something new to me. I haven't eaten Eastern African food. Can you tell me more about it? Or the dancers they see, they want to add some information. You break the barriers, and you start kind of talking about that too. So it really depends on the target audience and the target clients that we are dealing with, and how we can, do a better job. I have to say that it's very helpful for the city of Moorhead and commissioners to make sure that your mission has the valuing of diversity and inclusion. It is one thing to value diversity, it is totally different to be inclusive. And it's not just saying about it, but what are you doing about it? I've gone through a lot of training, and I've been into a lot of committees. And so I think I have to say that racism is not just it's part of diversity, but race is not just there alone. It has a lot to do with social and economic status. But it's unfortunate that race, because of the color, has become a barrier. And I think, so we have to make sure that there is some kind of a mission vision that supports welcoming people from all backgrounds, so that we are saying that we cannot allow racism and discrimination to happen, irrespective of who you are or where you come from. And I think that is really, really good. Then if you can, is to have programs, or more important is to put money into what you think is important. I have to say that the city was one of the key players, and Fargo still remains, and still give us some funds. West Fargo still does that. But Dilworth, it's very small and opt out. And Moorhead did that too. However, I still have support from Clay County. And I'm strongly feeling Clay County, I feel that whatever happens, Pew Foundation is looking back to see whether what they taught about, you walk the talk and you put in whatever the money is to support what we want to do. And I think that's very, very important. And so that's why we're able to still do things in Clay County area. And, those are things that the city of Moorhead and human rights people too should think about how, one can help in terms of what you want to value and what you want to support, to sponsor some of the events. And that would be very, very helpful, right? So,
would you be able to, so many of us I know are fairly new on the commission, would you be able to provide us with some of that history of what we have done in the past, what the city has done and not necessarily right now, but.
yeah,
that
okay,
would
you
be-
mean
So even in terms of so the city has provided funding for,
cultural
for
diversity
CDR,
when we
yeah.
first started, and not so much of the city, but also the counties too,
yeah.
By the way, I didn't brag about it, but it is the fact. In those days, Mayor Maury Lanning, he was the mayor at that time. Same with Mayor Furness, who was in Fargo. Guess what happened? I'm telling you. City of Moorhead applied for the All-American City Award. They did not win. So Maury Lanning called Cultural Diversity and me and said maybe we could partner, because they know that we're part of Clay County and Moorhead, but they wanted to include Fargo and Cass County. So we joined forces, the two joined forces, and guess what? We won. We won the All-American City Award in 2000, I believe. We also won, through Mayor Furness, I think it was more, the City Livability Award through the Conference of Mayors. The League of Cities is really All-American City Award. That's a very important one. So those are things that, to talk about the history. And you have a very active Human Rights Commission years before, but I don't see it now, I have to be honest with you. And I think part of that, I think we need to really network to see whether we could encourage people to come forward to talk about what are some of the issues that are happening, that, one could look at some of those things and see, and again, I think going back to some of the leaders that we think in some of those areas might be very, very helpful, to ask them for feedback. Right.
And you are correct, that actually for a little while, the commission was not active. They had talked about.
Dismantling it, yeah.
Yes.
They were going to disband it.
Yep.
And I think it was revived back into, it really takes time. I think it's very interesting for some of you who ran for office, not to say you were, put here, but you ran for office. I know that's why I'm thinking. They go door to door, and they ask questions, and sometimes you will hear some of the issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Moorhead and Fargo did have for 3 years. I think it was a forum or survey about diversity and racism issues things. It was done before. I have to go back to my
Was it with the Civil Rights Commission?
Civil Rights
Yeah.
Commission, yes.
And
it was done many years
It
ago.
was early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, it was done.
Hosted at Trinity.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, Rick Henderson and all the others, I remember those. So they had the Civil Rights Commission done for 3 years, and we had it was done very well. So that was that too. And the other thing I have to see is that The other thing I want to throw out to you is, to the benefit of the city of Moorhead, is this. I serve as a board member now on the West Central Initiative Foundation. It's a fascinating foundation because it is the only foundation that I realize has also got money to do community development. That is very rare. Most foundations focus on just grant writing, and they do it. But this foundation has money set aside from the federal and state money to provide economic development and community development. Like what you're doing here, it is for the city, but it is under the foundation. I think part of that is because they serve 9 counties, and Clay County being one of them, in the northwestern part of Minnesota. And it's fascinating, I find it. Now they have one of the best presidents I've ever seen. And they have taken United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals to be part of their vision and mission. And the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are broken into 4 categories. One category has to do with poverty, reduce hunger, people, everything to do with poverty and hunger. Another category is economic development, business, make sure people have jobs and all. Another area is all about clean water and land, very healthy. And the fourth one, it's fascinating, is equity, diversity, and inclusion. So those are the 4 ones. So I'm very proud to be one of that. And both 5 to 6 board members, and I will be one of them, and also 5 to 6 staff will be going to Canada, of all places, in Victoria, to learn about this United Nations Sustainable Goals as part of the community initiative that we do. It's fascinating, yeah. But I don't want to take up so much of your time. But I'll be more than happy if you have any other stuff you want me to talk about. I'll be more than happy to pass it on. Right.
Right. Thank you very much for
Okay,
coming.
you're
It's
welcome.
good to see
Thank you so much. Yes.
Actually, before you leave, I
Yes.
wanted to just say that Connie, the 2 of you should talk because,
I know.
good. Well, because actually one of the issues that Connie and I were talking, we talked about childcare programs in Moorhead. And I mentioned that West Central Initiative, that's one of the things so the meeting that I was at with you, that,
That's right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Yokesam would have some information about some of the programs.
Childcare is, it's very heavily with West Central. They
Mm-hmm.
play a very important role.
Mhm.
It's part of the very strong program that they have. There's no doubt about it, yeah. Housing is one, but childcare is number 1 for them in some ways now. Yeah. So, thanks a lot. Nice meeting all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, 2019 annual plan. Now, did we want to try and look at adding anything to that, Josh, tonight?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I was looking to just flesh out on here,
Right there, are those?
those are mine.
Oh, those are yours, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did I come here without keys? Yeah, here we go. Oh, yes. See, I put it.
There you go.
If you look at this page in the packet,
The grid.
the draft of kind of the months of the year, really was just looking to fill in some of our spots for speakers, and Yokesam had a good one tonight, that we should maybe add the New American Development Center. And then Deb, we had added the bystander intervention, and if there was someone that you had in mind that we could maybe,
I don't want to put her on the spot, but Amina Chowdhury would be somebody who I'd recommend, but there's some other folks too. So if you wanted, we could talk afterwards, I could connect with her.
okay, yeah, that'd be good. We, next month, so for June, we've got someone coming in to talk about Section 8 housing that was discussed at the last meeting and requested to bring someone in. So we can do that in June. July, we have Jerry on there from Freedom Resource Center. But yeah, maybe August or September if we could get bystander intervention.
Yeah, and I don't know if she does a training. I don't know if we were looking at it. Maybe we should talk about that a little more. She does something if we wanted to look at partnering to have a training available. But I don't know it would be a little different than having her come to speak. She could come and speak. at
Right,
the
yeah, maybe she could come speak, just touch on what she
About the
does in the
training,
training, and
yeah,
then maybe
yeah.
we could discuss, the commission actually
Got it.
sponsoring a
That sounds
training.
good, yep.
I know it's one of our goals is to provide some community training, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely ask her to do that. And I don't know if other people have, other folks like that that provide that kind of training that they'd recommend.
Well, if you want me to have someone from the New American Development Center, I think that gives us plenty then for the
Mm-hmm.
rest.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
And, okay, so next month, Section 8 housing.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on the plan? Have we formally adopted this?
No, not yet.
Is it appropriate to do that?
I'd say so if you guys are okay with those changes we incorporated. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah.
Is there one thing that I can ask to be added onto here as far as the months go? So, just this year in the state of Minnesota, they've adopted May as the state of Minnesota to be recognized as Native American Heritage Month. I know that November is the national month, but I'm not sure if we want to try to recognize that in May as well. I mean, I see that there's a lot of
Yeah.
other May things, but I just think that if we can be in support of what our state is doing, that's beneficial.
Absolutely.
Completely agree.
All right.
I will add that.
Any other comments, suggestions regarding the plan? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Deb. Second?
I'll second.
Shinwar, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. All right, this will be our official work plan. And subject to change, of course, and it's on paper, not stone, so we could always do something else with it later on this year if we'd like to. Okay, member reports and announcements. Anyone wish to share anything with the group, with the public?
I have
Deb?
two events that I wanted to mention. One is actually coming up next week on May 22nd, and it's the Mobility Matters Forum. And it will be at the Fargo Library, and it's 9 to 1, and there'll be exhibits and food trucks and things like that. But they'll be looking at transportation issues, and again, the way that it affects people and how we could improve transportation to meet everyone's needs. And I think it would be one of these things where it would be really valuable to have as many people, particularly folks that rely on public transportation. I was just at a MAP bus meeting today, and we talked about ongoing issues of things like that we don't have Sunday service and we don't have late hour services and things like that really, for some folks, really limit their employment opportunities, or even in terms of accessibility. It would be great to have those voices involved, and so I encourage people to attend. And then the other event that I wanted to mention is the Clay County Collaborative is planning this event called The Longest Table, and it's the Moorhead Dilworth Longest Table, and it'll be June 12th, 6 to 8 at the Dilworth Community Center. And it's really a community building event. It's free for people to attend. You do need to sign up for it, but a meal will be served, and we're going to bring people together and mix them up at different tables and just talk about our community and what do we like about it, what are the things that we'd like to see differently, what attracted people to the Fargo-Moorhead area, and really get to know each other. So it's meant to be, as I said, a community building event, and they're really striving to have people from throughout the community participate in this event. And so one of the things that I would encourage commissioners to do is we're looking at finding 35 moderators for tables, and these will be folks that'll lead the discussions. And so at each dinner table, we'll have a couple of questions that you'll pose to the people to start these conversations. And then we'll take down some of that information, but that way we can have that conversation and really hear from people what's happening in our community. And so if you're interested in serving as a table host, moderator, let me know, and I will add your name to the list and give them your contact information. And so that is, again, it'd be the Tuesday, June 12th, and it's at the Dilworth Community Center. And if you're moderating, you'd come a little early. And we have Matt Bus to transport people out there. We actually won't have parking at the event, so people can either take the Matt Bus all the way there or even get on the Matt Bus. Well, there's a couple of different spots where they can hop onto it and get shuttled over there too. Thanks. Those are my two.
All right, sounds good. Anything else? Connie?
There is also a Somali Week event coming up for the June 30th. This will be an open event, and the Somali dancers will present Somali traditional dance. It will be at Moorhead Horizon Middle School, Horizon West Middle School auditorium, June 30th, 6 p.m.
Which day in June?
June 30th.
30th, you said 6.
Okay.
And also Azad from Workforce Moorhead asked me to come. He said he will be coming, but I can see he sent a text me now. He said he cannot come here. He asked me to share with you guys for a new grant. You wanna share? This is B2B grant, Pathway Prosperity. It's a grant where it's a new American grant from the state. This grant is a good grant, which is a good way that new Americans can increase their skills. It's a grant where they can get CNA or production certificates, which will be free classes. So there's a lot of information. It said there will be navigators for the B2B grant, which will, Azad is one of them. Melinda from APE is another one. It's me from Afro-American Development Association and Abdullahi from Lake Spread. So the contacts are also there. Everyone who is interested in B2B grant is also welcome to contact us. It's a state grant. It should be, the person should be from Minnesota.
I know from personal experience, there's a desperate need for certified nursing assistants in nursing homes, hospitals, home care, agencies everywhere.
We had a meeting today. We are trying to increase the trainings because now it's only CNA and production trainings, but we were trying to have a kind of forklift trainings or boiler trainings, which is very neat too.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
There's one other upcoming event that someone asked that we share. I think you might have brought this up too, but they contacted us and shared some of this. Maybe you wanna, if you're familiar with it, share about it? That's one.
I'm not that familiar. so
We should have asked Yoke Sim while she was here, because
I know.
she, it's the Diversity Council's putting
train-
this on.
Yeah.
And it's next week, and I know they'd really like some participation from community leaders. It's a 3-hour session. They're providing lunch as well. You can see there are a lot of good community sponsors involved. Should be a pretty good event.
And no charge?
I don't believe so.
Looks like it.
They do ask people to register, and the information's on that flyer on how to register.
All right. Anything else? All right. New business? Time slot working for us, for the most part. Gaining a bit of momentum, have a new member, that's great. So we'll stick with it. And whatever the traffic is, we'll just have to deal with it. Seeing no further business, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, and then they passed that on to us, and I was like, yeah,